Hey everybody. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, you should be able to hear me. This is my Mike Venus. And I'm trying something different in my studio. Um in this setup, this is just a demo setup. I haven't really finalized anything, but what I did, because I got both the Force and okay, the Force and the MPC Live 2, I wanted to create some type of like live performance type jamming. Oh, I won't even say jamming because I'm going to record it. But basically, the setup is pretty straightforward. I'm still figuring out a few things, but overall, I think I got it what I want. What I did, I know this sounds backwards, but if you think about it, if you got both, you will agree. Okay, the Akai Force. I have it set up as my drum machine. I use 8 plug-in tracks, which that's the max you can use per project. You can use 8 plugins, 8 audio tracks, infinite amount of the MIDI tracks. So that'll be your drum tracks, your key group tracks, your MIDI tracks, and your CV tracks, which are all MIDI tracks. Basically set up to sequence stuff, right? And each clip, more or less, for each track is like its own personal sequence if you use it like that, right? So for this setup, usually you could do it with one of these, any one of these machines can do all that I'm about to describe. But for now, this is what I'm doing. I realized that to get the best out of both and to utilize both, I'm gonna have to play with both. Um, so this is why I set up my Akai Force as my drum machine. Okay. The way I got it set up, I got first track is kicks. It's the kick drum synth. The second track is snares, drum synth snare. Third clap, drum snare, drum synth clap. The fourth is a percussion drum synth, but it's the FM synth, and I use that just in case if I don't really want to use my MPC. I could still have some type of melodic or harmonic type setup. And then I have 2 hat plugins with the drum synth, one for close and open, a ride track with the drum synth ride, and then the 8th track and final for the plugins on this machine is the multi. Now on the multi, you get 8 customizable um, 8 customizable pads that you can basically choose any of the features that they have on the drum synth for each individual pad. So what I did for the multi, that's where I put mainly my percussions. I do like a mixture of dance, EDM. It's all electronic music, so let's just get that straight. So with it, I put, a shaker, tambourine, clave, Congo bongo, I think a crash, some type of stick, and something else. I'm still working on old toms. And I'm still working on that, but it's not finalized, but that's mainly what I'm going with. And with that, I have each pattern set up to 1 bar, because usually that makes it easier when you're creating patterns, right? And then also the beautiful thing about the Force, because you have the features with the latest update with the 306. A lot of this, what I'm speaking about outside of 306, that was all the drum synths, so all the plugins. Is the macro feature, which I can program the knobs, right? I have 2 sets. I have 2 projects on here where I can set presets for my knobs. So if I wanted to use any of the effects that I have set up on the master or the sends and returns or on the individual tracks, I can program those so that I can control the cue links, right, while I'm triggering clips, right? And then it has the pads where you get 64 pads, and for each pad you can set them up to be almost like the Novation launch pad, where kind of like one of them customized pages where you can customize toggle on and off buttons or parameters and stuff, and you just touch it, kind of like you can set it up however you want. I'm probably going to set that up to be more like my on and off switches for my effects, and mainly for like certain things. So like if I got the XY effects set up on it, I can push it, it'll have a certain parameter on it, it will cause that to happen, little stuff like that. I got EQ kills on it. Let me get the light real quick because it's kind of dark in here. Oh, shit. Right, so when I get that set up, that's gonna be fire. Now, a lot of people might say, well, why didn't you use the force for the synths? Well, Akai hasn't done a recent update yet with the recent plugins that they put into the MPC. The MPC got more effects. Also, it got more plugins, so more synths. It has a modular synth in here. They gave it the hype synth, so I was wrong, but they gave them the hype synth. But the hype synth, the way you able to maneuver around it is a little bit more fluid on the force. So I still say the force is better on the force than on the MPC. If you have both, you know what I'm talking about. So with those latest updates, my MPC is now my synth. Because usually when you have a DAWless setup, you need a synth, some type of sound modulator, right? You're gonna need a sequence where you can program or set your patterns to that you can trigger, and you're gonna need drums. Now, like I said, most people would assume, hey, Mike, why don't you do your drums on the MPC and then have your synths on the force? I could do that. All this is still interchangeable. They all do the same thing, just about. It's just different format. But I find it easier to program my drums in the different patterns on the force than it is on the MPC. And also with the MPC, unlike the force, it has a clip program, but it's not as, it's very limited. Okay, it works, but it's very limited. And I might use that on here in conjunction if I want to add anything else. Now, that's the force, how I have it set up. Also, what I will have hooked up to my force is my guitar going into input 1 and the mic into input 2. Now, this is not a condensed mic. I do have a condensed mic, but because I'm in such a very tight area, and this is, for right now, I'm in a townhome, it does affect other sounds that it can pick up. Like when I plugged in the condensed mic one day just to kind of test it out, I was able to hear what my son was doing in his room, and I could hear what my wife was doing downstairs. So that's a very powerful mic, so I might have to hold off on that, but it's there just in case if I want to add vocals or little voxes and stuff. I can definitely program it onto the force, right? But I really want to just keep this with 8 tracks like it is, not doing a bunch moving around, except programming drum tracks or patterns in here and then triggering them. And like I said, with the MPC, I have a lot of options. I have the arpeggiator in here, which is really cool. So like for an example, let's push play. I got some effects on there. Let me take that off. Take that off. Right. Now, I ain't a big fan of cables. I mean, I'm just playing around with this, but to get serious, what I plan on doing, I have a Launchpad Pro Mark III. Now, this will be great once I figure out how to set it up where I can have control over each MIDI channel dealing with the plugins. I can set up 8 plugins, and hypothetically will give me 8 different synths. And if you use the hype synth, there's certain presets, or you can choose a preset or an Intel setup where you have 2 synthesizers and you can mix it to go to either one or to the other, so that can kind of give you double. So let's just say I use all 8 plugins in here, right? And I create patterns on the Launchpad. The Launchpad has 4-track standalone sequencer on here, and it gives you the ability to add mutation, which this change the chord progression over time. Let me just program something real quick. I'm just programming something real quick. Now I can set mutation to each chord, so over time it'll change up. Alright, let's spread that out some. Alright, let me give you an example. All right, so I made like a pad real quick. Stop the drums, right? So I have all this programmed on the launch pad, right? So the launch pad, I can have 8 patterns per track. So this means I have the capability of building at least 8 different progressions per track. So let's say if I want for a song, or let's just say this is playing, right? Okay, they're all mutated. And I got it set to move every 8 bars. Right? So even though that's a basic chord progression, it's gonna modulate. So while that's going, let's say if I wanted to change the synth. Right. Now it's a whole different sound. And this is just on the hype synth. Kind of giving you an example. So, right. Now this isn't on, but let's just say hypothetically I didn't have a launch pad. I can program tracks on this device, right? And have them, have certain patterns per sequence. Go to the sequence, change to the next bank. It's a whole nother set. Similar to this, but all the patterns be saved in here. I could do that, or I could freestyle. So let me pick a different sound. Let's go with, let's try one of the new ones. No, I'm gonna try this one. Right? Right? You see? So I got that going. Oh shit. Move this. Then this got so many different things on it too. Right. See? That's going. Right. So, let's add some of the effects on the synth. Right. Right. Now that is the MPC. So like I said, what I'm going for is, sorry, I have like neck problems. I can program patterns on the launchpad, save them, right, on the projects. It will be saved onto the thing, right? Anytime I hook this up to this can become a sound modular, or like I said, I can program patterns on this to trigger the different plugins and synths and then just mute them, whichever one I want to bring in for whatever track, and then bring in my drums over here. And I have them both speaking or connected together through Ableton Link. So this is a powerful setup. Now, recording wise, I have it recording straight to the Head Rush Looper board. The Head Rush Looper board is amazing. The sound quality is great. I can have all these inputs. I have both the master left and right of both machines going into the inputs. You get 4 inputs on the Head Rush Looper board. I got to set the free mode, so I ain't worried about quantizing and none of that. And just like I did with my other stuff, I can record straight into this, record my automation or my live, tweaking and stuff, all on that track. It's saved as a WAV file. I can upload it directly to DistroKid, to SoundCloud, or even to, in the future, my own store on the internet, so you can get direct access to it. So this is a great setup. Great. Now, the cons, right? The major con that I have with this, the MPC, and a lot of people have said it too, is the Q links. If I'm going to use this as a synthesizer or as my main synth, I need knobs, more knobs or Q links to control the cutoff, the resonance, the mix. If I'm using a hype synth and I want to toggle between 2 different synthesizers or mix them so they both blend, so I get a bigger, span of sonic sound than what I have. So possibly in the future, I'm looking into investing in the MIDI Fighter twisters, the ones with the knobs. Probably get like maybe 2, because it's USB. I can connect it straight to the thing and, MIDI map them, have them set up, and I can control my cutoffs, my resonance, my LFO, what I want to do with that to create modulation or variation in the sound as it goes. So with this setup, I could do a lot. I know the MPC, the Force, is marketed as an all-in-one thing. It can do a lot of things, but when it comes to a setup like this, I really just wanted to do one thing. So yeah, this is a simple setup. I think in this way I'm using both gear, and neither one is collecting dust, and everything that I paid for is actually getting used. Um, but let me know what you think about this. I mean, and then like in the future, Lord willing, I can probably get an iPad. Have like, I don't know about the iPad. iPad probably to record this, but I am thinking about probably running some pedals through it, to create more of this soundscape effects. The effects on here is decent, but I want more control over the effects, and I don't want to really do a lot of menu diving. So let me know what you think. You know, let me know what you think about this potential setup. You think it will work? You think it's caca, means it's boo boo, it's no good, no bueno, or is it something that shit is the future? Because like I said, all this shit is connected through Bluetooth, except the outputs, you know. And yeah, and if you could think of, I'm possibly, if the launchpad ain't gonna work how I want it to work, I might invest in the Torres Squid to have my patterns on that, just to sequence into the synth, and then possibly down the road get an actual desktop synth that I can probably use in conjunction with this, or to basically just give me more control. Because I want to create a live performance that is in the moment. That's how I work. I'm very improbable, spontaneous. So it's kind of however I'm feeling. And this also gives me plenty of options to create something that I want to do at the time. Yeah, let me know what you think. And I'll be right back.